All right, welcome to the Remix Austin meetup. If you were expecting to be somewhere else, you can quietly leave. No one will notice. You'll be fine. But yeah, this is the Remix Austin meetup. This is a meetup in Austin about Remix and React Router and just building on the web in general. We've been running this meetup for about 3 years now, I think. That seems right. And yeah, it's good. It's a good place. We got good folk. So thank you all for coming out on this hot Austin day. All Austin days are hot right now. All right. Anyway, we're going to move forward. So some announcements before we get started with our talks today. I just wanted to share some things that have been going on. So we have React Router RSC preview available. So if you haven't checked that out, we have. Thank you. I didn't do anything, so I didn't even write the article. So we have React Server component support. I do think that Mark is going to be giving a talk around that, probably in a month or two. I can't remember the exact order, but relatively soon. So if you're like, I don't need to keep up with the latest, I'm just going to come to a meetup and learn everything, just keep coming. It's easy. But if you like to learn stuff, we have this blog post. Also, React Router is moving to an open governance model. So this is very exciting because it means that we're going to be looking for more contributions from outsiders, from the outside community into React Router in the future. I actually have a blog post coming out about this tomorrow, but if you want, you can go check out the governance.md file to learn more about what this means for like the future of React Router. And the reason we set up that governance is because Remix is actually kind of working on the next version of what we're doing with Remix, and it's going to be completely separate from what we've done with React Router. So that's like the last month of announcements in a minute that I just gave you. But tonight, we're talking about how to make money. We're talking about from RFP to MVP winning work with React Router v7. Justin's going to be sharing that with us, which I'm really excited about. And then after that, Pavel's going to be, I didn't change the author. I'm so sorry. I'll change that. SEO versus SPA, rendering for visibility. So we're going to be learning about search engine optimization. So those are the two talks we have tonight. And Justin, if you're ready, I'm going to hand it off to you.
So if you're anything like I am, even though I have a full-time, reasonably paid job, we still like to have that dream of the SaaS product that's going to catch, right? The piece that's going to take us from the Toyota Corolla to the Tesla, if you so desire. But we all have the repositories that happen to be, well, to say the least, dead, unmaintained, useless. They're probably still spun up on Vercel, but they're not going anywhere. And as far as you're going to push them on Twitter, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. They're probably not going to bring in that recurring revenue that you're looking for. So the great ideas, I have a few ideas of my own that someday they may spring out. But let's talk about the reality of how the firms that you guys work for make money. And that the entry into that foray is not difficult. Actually, any of us can be a part of a team that goes in and builds a product. So that's what we're going to discuss today. And I'm going to walk you through the kind of the narrative of how we did it recently. So this opportunity was kind of dropped upon my lap in a happenstance way. I happen to have a rep from Wago, if you guys are familiar, it's an automations firm out of Germany, very popular. They have amazing equipment. Anyways, their local sales rep was dropping off some equipment for us to throw up in our little lab that we have, a PLC or a relay or something, I can't remember. But he came into my office and we were talking about the upcoming projects in the future and opportunities at my agency and opportunities around the other railroads that are kind of in our little community, if you will. And when I asked him, I said, well, do you ever use, well, first I told him, we use Planet Bids for our solicitations in my firm. And it's kind of a broken application. It's poor in every way, and I wish that we would change it. So I said, do you use Bonfire? And he said, no, we don't normally use Bonfire. I'm not familiar with that one. And I said, well, let me pull it up. And so I pulled up the Bonfire for Metra, which is the commuter railroad in Chicago. And as I'm scrolling through, there's about 15 open projects, solicitations, accepting proposals for various things from actual train cars down to like the ties. And then as I scrolled down, there was one for software as a service, hosted platform for a railroad grade crossing, basically, database. And they had to, basically, all the railroads were required to inventory their crossings. And believe it or not, that gets fairly complicated, especially in the case of Metro. They have around 700 crossings, grade crossings, and every piece of equipment on those grade crossings has to be identified and basically kept up to date. So if it's modified, changed, or any other way, or it has to be updated every 2 years if nothing changes. And that's from everything from the highway speeds to the traffic markings to, the actual equipment that runs the gates. So you can imagine keeping the federal database up to date is fairly complicated, because when you get to that database, it's essentially just one big, long web form with poor validation and terrible UI and everything you can imagine with a government-run antique website. And of course, they can't change that form because it's locked in for, they have these government periods, so it's locked in for the next 4 years, right? It's frozen. That's how they do it. And that's not really the best case. So, and we are coming up to that. It's opening up here in 2 years. But what Chicago wants to do is they want an application that can inventory and keep proper track of all their railroad grade crossing equipment and associated, properties. And the proposal was basically laid out the scope, and it said, bring your offers. So I had not been looking for a proposal or an opportunity, but when this one struck me, it had such an intersection between the technology that I like, basically, the web dev, and the work that I do on a daily basis, which is railroad and systems engineering, that I would actually I had planned to build this application myself, just to use it as a basically in-house tool, just in local tooling. And, I'd actually framed out a few things as that went over the past few years. And so I immediately was interested in it. And then the sales rep left, and as I further went down into the guts of the posting, I realized the pre-bid conference was the next day. So the proposal had been open for a couple weeks, and the meeting, they do one meeting for everybody. So you got your questions. They have representatives from the procurement team, basically the systems team, and the people that are asking for the work to be done. So I got onto that conference, registered up, got all through. It was very simple. And you didn't have to have a business license or anything. You just basically sign up. You fill in something. I have an S corporation that I throw in there anyways, just because don't we all have LLCs or S corporations in here, I'm sure. If we're trying to make money, that's what we do. Anyways, so as I registered, I got on the call, and they gave their spiel, and it was very clear to me at that point that they didn't know what they wanted. It's not going to be a traditional dev cycle. They're not running sprints. They don't have user stories, and they're not going to be doing releases. They essentially wanted an off-the-shelf piece from another vendor. Well, guess what? That software doesn't really exist besides one broken piece of junk. I'd say it's embarrassing. And the kind of the undertone of all the people on that meeting, it's like you didn't have to say it. The solicitation was kind of written for that firm. I went to the firm's website that is basically the promo for their said application that would cover the requirements of this solicitation. And strike one is it doesn't even have SSL. It's unsecure. At that point, I knew they had no business building anything. I won't do business. I'm sure you guys are the same. I won't do business with someone that can't lock, at the very least, can't serve over 443. So that firm is dead to me. And that's when I knew there is some opportunity to come in, not with an off-the-shelf piece, but with custom software, custom iteration. And we wouldn't necessarily be iterating with the end user. We would just present it to them, say, this is your dev environment. If you like it, we can fine tune it. If not, we'll fix it. Whatever it takes. You know how the system runs. So I was interested, to say the least. There was a couple false starts. When I got on the call, I saw some colleagues. Probably I knew 5 or 6 different people representing them, and a couple top groups that I knew would be contenders. There's the guys from Princeton Consultants out in New Jersey, very good dev firm, small group, but they're very well established and basically well respected within the kind of the railroad technology. I know that's about as niched as you can get, but they make a very good system. Basically, it's a vital logic validation, V&V, verification validation, and you can run the same applications that you put in the field in the PLCs, basically, in the vital logic controllers that move the trains through. You can run that on their application, and it's the exact same runtime as it would be in the field. So you can commission it in the office before you push it. So you find all your bugs before you get out to the field, and you're 12 hours in. So it's very important, and it's quite expensive also. I think it's like licenses. It's at least, I think, $60,000 a year, which I don't know. I don't know how licenses are these, but that seems expensive to me for one license. So those guys are definitely going to be a contender. So there was a couple other firms that I knew would be in the running. Directly after the call, I called the first the civil engineering firm that is out of Fort Worth, and I said, I saw you on the call. Are you interested? And they said, yes. We'd like to pursue it. I said, do you want to be a prime or do you want to be a sub? They said, we think we fit better as a subs. So the important thing is not only was it a software, basically, development cycle, but it also had a field verification segment. So there's all the 700 crossings have to be inventoried, updated, and verified to what, basically probably 5 nines, right? No errors. And that's a lot of data to compile. So, and that's a lot of work. That's almost more work than the software dev. So if you ask any of the software firms around here, they don't want to go in the field and verify data, right? So you definitely have to have a cross-functional team right away. So I linked that firm up with a software firm that I've worked with in the past out of Florida, smaller shop. I think they got about 100 team members, so just a small business, if you will. But they had a call, and at the end of the call, the civil firm didn't think it was worth the squeeze because they said, we think they're going to give it to, contractor X, even though it's a trash product. So that was a false start. But I knew that I had to put a proposal through. I wanted to see a successful team, at least get a proposal across the finish line. And it was very important to me. I mean, it was one of those things where you're not going to let it go. So over the weekend, I recruited a project manager that I had worked with in the past, very respectable project manager, worked for some big firms. He worked for GE, also worked for Wabtec, which is one of the biggest railroad engineering. Oh, they do everything. They make locomotives all the way down to the circuit boards. So he's been very successful. He just opened up his own shop about 6 months prior, so it was a good opportunity. I said, hey, do you want to get out and do some work? I got an opportunity. He said, sign me up. So at that point, I started drafting out a high-level proposal to basically give the boilerplate proposal. I'll give it to the software development firm and say, this is your proposal that you can build. You can take this. It's going to cost you nothing, but I want to do this together. So by the end of the weekend, I had the proposal basically framed out between Claude and ChatGPT. I took all that AI slop and then pressed it down and refactored every single paragraph by hand, because everyone here knows what AI slop looks like, and I'm not going to put that forth. So at the end of the day, the only thing that I got from the model was the outline. And I took the outline directly from the requirements in the proposal. So it looked pretty good, and I was happy with it. So with the resume of my project manager and the framed out proposal draft, I sent it over to the firm in Florida, and I said, are you interested? Let's put a proposal together. Let's put a team together. And it was all quiet. I think I sent that on Thursday. It was all quiet. Then Sunday night, the head of business development from that firm sent an email and said, hey, let's talk on Monday. So we got on a call on Monday. I had the project manager there. We did the introductions. I said, okay, we're good. What about the inspection firm? We're a software development firm. He's a project manager. We need people to get out in the field and actually inspect these crossings. So I said, I know a guy in California. So I called the firm that I worked with a lot in the past. They do systems engineering. They're a small firm. I probably not 50, 60 employees, but they've been around for about 20 years. Very good business. And I know they're always hungry for work. So I called him up. He said, yeah, let me send you the business dev guys that work for us. So they basically signed on a phone call. We had the kickoff meeting that 3 or 4 days later, the whole thing, introductions, we scoped out we divided some scope. There was a lot of gaps initially, but we did press through. And so we met bi-weekly, about 10 in the morning. It was pretty interesting. So it was California, Denver, Austin, Florida, and then the development team is in Belarus. So we had a pretty big spread of people, and some thick accents on the other side, but they speak clear enough for me. So it was a diverse group, and basically, the only thing that brought us together was the opportunity to make some money. And that's the only goal, right? And everybody knows at this point, we're working for free. Everyone in this team is working for free, and that's the understanding. Obviously they're collecting wages on their normal, but the business there's no revenue from this operation. So we met for twice a week, and it was good working sessions. The engineers and the business development people iterated on the proposal. There was some gaps that had to be filled. I stepped in. I said, let me take that piece. And so I put the training syllabus out, and it was quite substantial. It ended up being 3 weeks of training for the platform. They had they have in-depth requirements. If you've ever worked for governments, they love their training. So it was 8 hours a day, 4 days a week for 3 weeks. And they said, well, who's going to do that? Who's going to go train the people? And then I said, well, project manager from Denver, would you like to do it? He said, sure. So he just became the training coordinator. And he called me up after. He said, I don't know anything about this application. I said, good, because it hasn't been built yet. So when we scaffold it out first, let's show you how to work the API. It's not going to be difficult. And all you have to show is how to set up a user account and basically, the flow through the system. It's not difficult. You'll have plenty of time to do it. So that's kind of the quick and dirty. The last day as the deadline approached, they refactored it, they signed it, they sealed it, the CEO signed it off, and at the end of the day, the proposal went out with the nice clean logo of the software company that I don't work for, with all their engineers' bios that I've never met, and the project manager that I've worked for, and the PRE guys over in California. And the commercial agreement between the two, between the external pieces and the prime, was pretty simple, because they just said, how much are you going to charge for your scope? How much are your deliverables going to cost? And that on the pricing schedule that Metra required us to submit, it's just clear. So whatever they put in the box is what's coming back to them. Profits and overhead. So this whole story is to show that any one of us can put forth a proposal. I have a theory, and it has come true many times, that if you can put coherent words onto paper, you can get money. I do it at work constantly. Actually, I wouldn't tell the people that, the senior team that I work with, but if you could put a charter together and you can say, this is the schedule and the work plan, and it's going to be a wise investment into our infrastructure, they don't really have a choice. Like it's the direction, if it matches the charter and it matches the goals and it matches the needs, they're going to fund it. Of course, that's the project that I want. So it's one thing to remember is if you can write it out coherently and you can influence people with that piece of paper, you can get funded in whatever you desire. And that's in your personal life or your side hustle or your business. So that slide was the long one. So that's the same thing. It's just the working with the network. I've worked with all these people previously, and they had seen my work, and a lot of them have worked in between. There was that network piece, right? They say everything is in a network. It's true. Actually, I used to not believe that as much. I mean, we've all heard it, that networking is important, but it's more important than I imagined and probably any of us completely understand. We only have a small grasp of it. So, and if this slideshow looks like a little bit of AI slop, that's fine. You know, it's just for really decoration. But it's actually built out of HTML. So when I originally sent over the proposal to the software dev firm, I wanted to give them an idea of, hey, here's, if I'm going to act as kind of a product manager by proxy, right? By the way, my name wasn't anywhere on this proposal. There wasn't anything to it. And, you know, I thought about, you know, shopping it to other teams if this one fell through for a monetary return, but it's really not worth the hassle. Because the funny thing is you really have to shepherd it the whole way through. So let's take a look when we'll actually get to the React Router 7 stuff here. Let's take a look at the live demo. Excuse me. Dang things in the way. So, get this. Nothing you guys haven't seen before. Simple dashboard. It's got a few stats. It's not exactly rendering. Well, it's pretty decent. It's hard to tell from this scale. But the idea is we want to give the decision makers the idea of what is happening with their inspections in the field. So we got some simple metrics, a simple chart, a little bit of this action. And here's where they get to the important part. So just to get into the guts of this, of course, it's Shad UI. I actually stole the whole thing from via V0 and wired it up in the back. It's hard not to cheat like that. But I did a little bit of refactoring, but a couple of the pieces that I think will be, the idea is any of us can build a good UI, but to know what feature is going to bring value to the end user is really the battle. Because if I told the engineers that are going to build the application that we hope to be successful with winning, there's quite a lot of work and negotiation to go through. It's still under evaluation. Those engineers don't know what the end user uses, what they need, and where they need the data. So that's the key is, like, I'm the person that would be using this application, so I'm uniquely positioned to speak as kind of a stakeholder. And the people at Chicago, they don't know what it means when you say, is it optimized for mobile? You know, they actually have this really stupid requirement, in the specs that said, we want offline data collection support. Okay, in Chicago, where are you going to be offline? Where are you going to be collecting data when you don't have connectivity? Nowhere. So that's kind of like, why are we even putting that in there? That it goes back. Actually, I believe it was a spec that was carried over from the trash application previously that they happened to have offline because it's back in the 14.4K modem days. But this component right here with the grid, hand stack table, I believe it's called. It's a pretty nice component. It's got a lot of nice features. Little sheet slides out. Excuse me. And these will be eventually wired up, but you can go to the full details of the crossing. These are the details that you're going to have to collect, basically. And I got a quick map. That's nice and easy with the open map. It's where you put your properties, and then just some details. So one interesting thing is the ID in the database is going to be that DOT number. The DOT number is the unique identifier of that particular railroad crossing, and it's unique to any grade crossing in the States. And even the little farm plank crossing has a unique number. So that's one of the important points, is that's where the validation starts, right? when you put that into your input field, it has to have those digits and the alphabet at the end. That's it. And there's a very kind of strict schema that would be followed. So that's one of those things that's basic things, requirements that probably get missed a lot. So the one of the little features that is worth mentioning is this is wired up to the actual FRA API, and I was able to get an API key. But the sample here, so when you get this is the actual form that they have to update. This is the application, essentially. This is what you have to track. And so it's not that complicated, really. So if you think about an application, it's just a series of user inputs, right? You're going to put the data in at some point, and it's going to get populated up a new component. So it's not really rocket science, but if you try to build this form out in the UI, you're in for a surprise. It's not going to end well. So you're going to have to basically come up with your own flow. But it's a lot of data, and it's a real hassle. And actually, the trouble comes is there's actually 3 stakeholders in here. It's the railroad, the city, and the state all have their own little fields, and you're not supposed to update the other ones. So enough about that piece. So everything in the other table is coming out of Postgres on Neon with the Drizzle ORM. Very convenient, easy. It's hard to get tied up on that. I wired up this query directly to the FRA, and it's like the worst API schema you've ever seen. And literally, I kid you not, the returns are limited to 10. So I don't know what's broken on their end, but you get 10 at a time, so you got to page through that. So, and when you view the details, you get the same data that I seeded into the database directly from the FRA. So this is the data they have to update at the end of the day. So the question is, what opportunities exist today? And we'll follow this slide, show through here, see what At the end of the day, I don't think I'm going to be able to convince them to use React Router. I was kind of disappointed in the proposal. So something about the demo app. My position was when they go to the oral discussions and they get up there and they have all day to present their product, they have to have something. So I was going to give that code base to the engineers in Belarus. They can fine tune it. They can wire up the rest of the APIs. They can do whatever they want to it. But at the end of the day, no one's going to know the difference if the UI is changed, whatever. From the oral discussions to the final product, there's nothing they can do. So they can't say, well, you sold us a lot. No, we refactored it. So that was the idea, is to have at least a starting point for maybe we get 2 weeks, ahead for the oral discussions, and we got to come in, we got to present with something. So that was the baseline. In the proposal, the final proposal, their tech stack, it was pretty vague. They had their APIs lined out and had some good documentation, but at the end of the day, I believe it was a Spring Boot, plus they said maybe we'll do some, it wasn't like super old, but one of them was like, there was no React. I was like, I would just prefer that we did the UI in React, but each to their own. I mean, these shops kind of get a stack they like and they just run with it, and that's fine. So there was this slideshow is not optimized. It's a string of HTML on a Deno deploy playground. So it was a quick and easy way. I didn't want to spin up an actual HTML folder. Too much hassle. So there was a link that says what's next at some point, and there is an offering right now at the Chicago Transit Authority, and if you go to their bonfire hub, so every agency has their own distinct hub, their portal, if they call it. And you scroll through here, and this just came out a couple days ago, and it's right here. RFP for web-based labor compliance and candidate tracking system. Well, that sounds like something we could whip out in about 3 days. And I did a quick browse this afternoon. I just saw this the other day, and the requirements matrix is pretty rudimentary. Available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, via multiple browsers in browser versions. That's about the most vanilla piece I've seen. So right away, you know that there's not a good tech person writing these specs. So role-based authorization, obviously, and all you have to do is get a database that's going to track all these fields, and of course, with all the right links, project setup, payroll, you know, it keeps going, project areas, certified payroll. This is very simple stuff. And let's see, you know, basic rate, overtime rate. But I'm sure there's a couple pieces that might take another week or so. Anyways, but somebody's going to make money on this, and you can do it one of two ways. You could broker an existing product, like, I don't know. I wouldn't recommend you take Oracle into this, but you could probably find some kind of little helper for something similar. But it's a wide open opportunity, and it's the best proposal goes on for further evaluation. So with these public agencies, it's not strictly low bid. It's usually about 70-30. So 70% would be technical proposal, 30% would be actually the cost. And so a lot goes into it. And the evaluation committee is usually around 5 or 7 people of various crafts. And I'll tell you what, I've been on the other side of the evaluation committee making the decisions many times for large procurements. And it really comes down to some, I hate to say it, it looked sloppy. Like the proposal looked sloppy. So I basically threw it in the trash. Even if they wrote a good work plan, if they can't keep their margins straight, how am I going to let them go build subgrade? I can't. It's like the little things matter. So, like I said, there's opportunities out there available. And this bonfire is only one portal of many. So, and actually, you have to really search to find the agencies. There's not a directory. They make it difficult, so you have to kind of go one by one. But TxDOT has offerings on Bonfire. They recently had a proposal for a drone tracking system in management, but that's definitely off-the-shelf software, I'd guess. And you know, a lot of other states have it. Harris County has Bonfire, but there's a lot of other people on Planet Bids and associated. But I just want to encourage people out here that know that professional services are not just limited to engineers and civil engineers, electrical engineers, but it's also software developers and software engineers. So with that being said, that kind of rounds out the conversation. Pretty much on time here. Any questions before we close it out?
So I might not have caught this, but do you work for your own shop, or you like fly solo, like freelancing? How do you put that together?
So I work full-time as a program manager for the local transit authority on the rail side, and I do some consulting on the side. So I have it's more just really it's just brokering people together. That's kind of like what I like to do. But I mean, I'll put input in where it's valid. But yeah, just able to network.
Maybe a little embarrassing. I've never actually RFPs. I've never been like that. When is it decided that the real project costs? How's that decided?
So like the estimate from the owner side. So it's like an educated guess. I hate to say it. So they call it the independent cost assessment, ICE. And if I'm putting a project out, at my office. I will get input from other engineering firms. I will look at past performance, past history of similar work, and then I'll just look at price sheets and hourly rates of local engineering firms. I have price sheets for everybody, essentially. And these days, a principal engineer, civil engineer, is about $450 an hour, fully burdened. That's with the profit and overhead. So just start adding meetings up, and it gets expensive, very expensive. We're doing a design right now for the Plaza Saltillo. It's going to get a new station with double track down to about Chicon, and I think the estimate was probably off by 15%, and so that's a lot of money. And what happens when an estimate's off? Nothing. They say you just have to write it up. They call it a fair and reasonable assessment. So you say, my numbers were so screwed up because I didn't realize that engineering firm A through C have upped their rates by 20%, or steel has gone up, or whatever. Go ahead. Oh, for the assessment, the on the boots assessment. So that pricing was done by PRE, and I'll tell you the truth, it since we can speak freely here, you guys don't work in the industry, right? It came in just under $1 million for the inspections and actually I told them right then, I said, that's about what I expected, because you think about it, you get 4 guys in a pickup, and that includes expenses to get you there, hotel and parking and fuel and per diem, plus their technician rates, probably $150 an hour, fully burdened. And then you say per crossing, I've done the assessments, it takes about, 45 minutes to really collect the data accurately. I mean, anybody can go out there with a cell phone and take a 360, but to really say, this is, series Y lights and lamps and gate mech, brand and model this, it takes some time. And some of the crossings in Chicago have 4 main tracks, right? So it gets busy, and then you have to wait, for traffic to clear so you can cross the road. So it does take some time, and it's pretty expensive. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention about the proposal, it does come with a 5-year service agreement. So there is kind of a long-term commitment. And the first, you get your main deliverables out the first year, you get it stood up, you go live, and then you've got to service the APIs and security fixes and bug fixes for the next 5 years. So that was actually a risk exposure spot for the firm. They did have a little bit of caution with that. Go ahead.
This proposal, walk us through maybe how you do it. Is it one you're interested in? Like with approach it, it's about what firm you're looking for and your idea of total budget. High level.
Yeah, this one's really straightforward. You only need, 3 or 4 good devs could probably kick that out, and a DevOps guy, and probably a project manager, right? So a full team, and they're going to be working some hours. And I don't know what you guys bill out around here, but the dev team in Belarus, you're getting a pretty good rate over there, and they put some quality out too. They're good. They're very responsive, but you just do the math from that. I would just write out the user points. You know what I mean? Just write the features that you're going to have to bring in and go from there. Like I said, I'm not a professional software developer. I've been working as self-taught since about Remix 1. So when they came out, they said, this is how you put the newsletter submit in. That was my first piece. I was like, okay, I'm starting to get it. And then once I got the loaders and the actions, I'm like, okay, I can pretty much wire up anything. All right, well, thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. Have a good night.
So, what we're talking about, it would be about the SEO with SPR. Yeah. So SEO is a search engine optimization, and any application in the it's public here, all access to another user, It would be great if it's optimized for the search engine, yeah? So it would be pretty dynamic presentation. If you will have some questions or anything that you need to explanation, my explanation from my side, yeah, for you, just please interrupt me. Quick question. How many of you work with the front end or interact with the front end? Okay, almost all, yeah? Okay, great. So it will be easy for you. Okay, let's start. Why the matter? Because actually almost all stuff that have the dependency for the SEO, it's happen on the front end, yeah? So we have to make some decision, strategic decision for our future, for our architecture. And we have the few different options how we actually will render our application for the end user, yeah? So strategy here, it's we have to choose initially something that will impact for our SEO needs, because needs could be different, and actually our solution also could be different. We have the 4 different approach. Main approach, yeah, that popular right now, it's a SPA. It's an all application that have, I'll explain to after. Okay, SSR, SSG, and streaming. It's something between the SSR and SSG, yeah. So let's start with the SPA. What is this? It is something that render on the client side. Yeah, we have the big bundle. It's a download for our user and start to render all stuff inside. We have the business logic in the browser. It's pretty good for the infrastructure, because if we one time download the information to the end user and we need to do any API request only on demand, yeah, without any needs for the render any page. Common problem which we have on the SPA. It's initially, of course, all problem from the SEO perspective. First one, it's an empty HTML. We have only one tag with the main JS, something like this, yeah, and root, something like this, yeah, and it start to build after the download, yeah. It's the first one. Second one, it's a slow first load, yeah, because it's a pretty big bundle, about the 20, 30, 50 megabytes, yeah, depending on the situation. Of course, it's a missing title and meta tag, because for each page it could be different. So it's required the JS to build in this title and meta. And of course, routers. Router is not eligible for our crawlers right now. So fix for the first issue. Quick fix, yeah. It's when we have the lazy loading, we can split our modules. When we can do something like a tree shaking, we can remove some application, we can split our application for the few small pieces, yeah. Do some micro front end with a lot of bundles, something like this, yeah. So it could be solved, but in any case, our user will load a lot of JS if we already compare with the other approaches. Missing metadata. Okay, we have a lot of tools right now, a lot of libraries that propose some hack, yeah, how we actually can do and inject the missing meta tag for each page. But it required additional effort from the backend perspective, from the DevOps perspective, and a lot of stuff, yeah, that not related for the front end. Next one, unlimited routers. We can do also some trick. We can add for any link additional A tag with something like a link inside. It's also hack. It's not like a good solution, but in any case, we will show some links for the crawlers, and it will be share the authority of our pages to the another pages on this page. So it's a very important, it's a crucial point for our crawlers. Next one, it's empty HTML. Of course, we can do the pre-render something. We can do the snapshot, and for each route, we can provide some information about some page. So overall, it's a snapshot. After they will build our application, deploy it in the production, we did a lot of the pages, make a lot of snapshot, and provide the same JS file for all of them. And after that, it will be good rate and all that stuff, yeah? So it's also hack, not a good solution, because it could be pretty expensive if you have a lot of the pages. What we cannot be fixed from the SPA perspective, okay, of course, from the front end, we cannot fix fully the HTML from the load. We cannot do the router smoothly. Yeah, it's actually that we have the problem. And another one for the Twitter and Facebook, we also will have the like a empty preview because these crawlers, Twitter and Facebook crawlers cannot be actually render it on their side and provide some small preview information about our page. And what we have the smooth UX, we have the native fill of application, we have the fast page switching, and great app for the our infrastructure, because our infrastructure have no dependency for this one. But in any case, we have a lot of cons like empty HTML, we have no metadata, JS heavy, poor social preview. Yeah. When we can use when we need do a lot of the stuff on the front end, when it's a big application with a lot of data, and for the each user interaction, a lot of user interaction, if you have, we'll need to do some request. And in this case, we can do this on the SPA. We can load the business logic on the client side and do all the stuff on the client side overall. So we can use it. It could be used also for the internal tools, like internal application. Yeah, it's also okay. Server-side rendering. So overall, main idea, we do the same HTML rendering, but on the backend, we can cache some information and provide for the end user. But in any case, render happen on the backend. So we'll have the big demand on our infrastructure. Any request, any new request, any dynamic request will like make a lot of demand and a lot of pressure on our infrastructure. Which problem we have here? It's a time to first byte. It's a really big problem because actually when user just go to our page, we will provide the first byte only after our server provide this, make some computing, make some page and provide it for the end user. So it's a big delay and we almost cannot fix it. Cold start, it's more about the service which will render it. It also depend by the situation, but overall, it requires sometimes when our service will just up and start to process this information. Server load, of course, many renders, many requests, and it's limited. Okay, of course, we can use the caching, but it's limited because it's a dynamic render, And overall, we have the latency for the all rest stuff. How we can solve it with the first byte, we can use the HSSR. From my experience, it's a pretty expensive solution because it's required not only the build your application correctly, it's required a lot of effort from the front end side. It not could be finished by the junior or middle developer, I guess, because it's required a lot of optimization, a lot of dependency, and how actually the Vercel or Cloudflare will work with our H application. So main idea, H application, it's a small part of our backend that will provide for the Cloudflare, for example, and it could be provide some page pretty quick. It will be really close to our end user. It's a small piece of our real backend, and will provide only a couple of the routes. For example, login page, maybe landing page, or maybe some marketing pages. We can do this on the H. It would be SSR. It would be like a dynamic data with the localization or with the user information, like which country, which city user use. So we can do this dynamically, but in any case, it would be closer to the user and not be in our infrastructure. So it's a good solution, pretty cheap for the startup, but for the enterprise, for the big project, it's pretty expensive. Redis and all that stuff, it's like a hack, not about the solution. Cold start, so we can put all our stuff in the hot, but it will also expensive solution. It's like in the 10 times expensive than just a cold start. And it's also a problem that will be for the user experience. Some user will see our page in the couple of seconds, another in the couple of milliseconds. Yeah, it's a big difference because if we just start our application, it requires some time to start up, especially if you have the big application. Global latency, of course, again, CDN, Cloudflare. What can it be fixed? Server dependency could not be fixed, yeah. Big demand on our infrastructure. If you have the 1 million users and all of them go into our infrastructure, and even if you have the great scaling mechanism and all balancing, in any case, a lot of computing will be on our side. And it's could be like a bottleneck for the future. Even if we can provide the 100 pods, in any case, it would be like a bottleneck. May God bless you. Okay, what we have? Great experience for the crawlers. It's a really good page for the crawlers. It's a good meta text. It could be work with the dynamic content. It's good for the preview for the social media. Yeah, so it's a pretty good. Good for the critical pages. Yeah, we can use the Edge SSR. It's also good. Slower TTFB. Yeah, first byte when user receives anything from us, and it's almost cannot be solved properly. From this approach requires a lot of the server infrastructure, hard caching, because you cannot cache something that dynamic, yeah? It has a lot of the props that depend on the user, yeah? So you cannot cache anything for the SSR, almost. It's a main idea of the SAR. So we can use it for the dynamic data, for the localization, for the fresh data, and so if you need the quick indexing, it's also important. Probably the best one for the crawlers, it would be like a SSG. When we just prepare all pages like a static and save for the some blob storage, for the something like a, I don't know, anything like a CDN, we can cache anything because it have no any dependency on the user interaction, user properties, yeah, and we can provide this data. But problem with this, one of the biggest problem, if you have a lot of pages, like a couple of the millions, and all of them have the revalidation, require the changes every couple hours, it also will be like something expensive. And it requires some optimization from the server side, from the building side, from the infrastructure DevOps, and it required more from DevOps and backend than previous approaches. So we use this on our production one for a lot of the pages with the validation, with the custom hooks and REST one. But overall, the problem about the fresh content, when you need to refresh something, you can make some revalidation and put this. But if you have a lot of the pages, in this case, you require the additional backend. The additional infrastructure does not depend on the flow for the real user. So real user go to our page, we provide the HTML, make it some API requests, and this dependency should not be the same flow as our generating flow. So we require the additional pods or additional backend only for the generation of pages. Because when we start to validate pages and recreate them, in this moment, we'll have the problem for the end user, yeah? So another one, personalization. We cannot do the personalization because it's required some user input. What we can do? We can do something like a hybrid, yeah? We provide the SSG, it's loaded for the user. After the graduation, it's make some additional requests for the user, and we will show some personalized information, like by the location, by the, I don't know, anything inside the user side. Yeah, maybe some, I don't know, really anything that user have in their browser. We can use this information and provide for them with the additional requests. It's also hack because initially it will not know any information. What we cannot fix real-time content because it required the more like SSR solution. We have the problem with the personalized pre-hydration. After the user received the page, we have the small time to do any changes on the page. And if it requires some chaining of the requests to the backend, In this moment, we'll have the problem because user will see like a flicking page, all changes and information. God bless you. All the pages will be just have the flicking and all content change. It's a bad for the user experience, and also it's a bad for the crawlers because if crawlers see that something changed on the page, it proceed with the starting the page. So it's didn't finish the count of the we finished with loading this page, yeah, like for the end user, because it see like okay, we have the additional request for the server, and crawler will wait and end this request, yeah, and it could be pretty bad for the SEO perspective, yeah. Overall, we have the good solution for the static pages without any personalized information, good for the crawler, best for the crawler, really. We have the best score. We beat all competitors with the SSG, but we had a lot of rocks under this, yeah. We used a lot of tricks for this solution to provide the best score for the crawlers. Because we did a lot of hack that actually restricted from the engines, yeah, crawlers. So it's required a lot of effort from the front end side. But it's a great solution for the receive the best score. Yeah, overall like this, streaming. So it's something for the hybrid system, yeah? When we have the something like pre-rendered pages, maybe we have the pre-rendered some, don't need to understand me. We have some pages that already have some data that we can show for the end user. How it looks like. We have the request from the user side and ask for some page. Our server provides some dummy page with the all required information depend on this route. We'll show some piece of the information, maybe some basic information, header, something that actually don't require the changes, yeah? And we can pre-save this information. We provide a small piece of information like a SSG, but after that, we will make the additional request progressively, depend on the user interaction or user information, and provide for them the specific components inside this page. For the user, it will see like we have the pretty fast loading of the page, couple of the millisecond, and after that, we'll do the all rest requests like a stream, yeah? For the same request. For the same request, we'll provide the information. It will like not just a response to 100, it will be like a response in the same request. So if you open the network, you'll see this one request and a lot of different information inside this request. It's good for the user experience, but not the best for the crawlers, of course. So we can more experience as a guy, yeah, and more expertise from the, okay, a stable connection, from the developers. It's also required a lot of involvement from the backend side and DevOps side. And we also need to know what actually will show for the first render. Metadata delivery, we can do few tricks about this, but in overall, we have some problem about the consistency of the requests. So we cannot predict which request will just run first and finish first, yeah? So in this case, we require some additional queue that will also handle all these suspense fallbacks and all that stuff, yeah? It's pretty bad for the social bots like Facebook and Twitter because they will not wait for our all rest responses, yeah? So it receives only the first one with the loader, with some suspend, with something like dumb information, but overall, it will be finished on this one. And it's bad for them. But overall, it's a pretty good solution, and we can use it. We use it for some of the pages, but it's required more evolving from the actually front-end side. Yeah, overall like this, no silver bullet, yeah, not the best solution any of them, yeah. Of course, it's calling like a SEO against the SPA, yeah. This one, it's about the initial HTML, metadata, work without the GS, yeah. First byte, all the stuff that we actually discussed it, but in the table, yeah. Flexibility and strategy, summary grid, and overall the score depend on the stuff, all the stuff, yeah. Probably the best one option is SSR and SSG. But with a few moments that we discussed previously, yeah, it depends on your content. If it's dynamic content, it's SSR. It's a static content, SSG. Probably some hybrid. And for the limited SEO with a lot of tricks, it's SPA, yeah. This is full table. And by this QR code, I will post this presentation in the end of this day, yeah? So if you want receive this presentation, just to go this with this link, I will share my presentation. Any questions? Guys, no questions? You didn't receive anything? Or you have no question? Yeah. You mean the Edge SSR? Yeah, Edge SSR. Yeah, for example, you can use Cloudflare, or you can use Lambda or Azure Function. Yeah, anything from this perspective. It would be like a part of your real application without all rest stuff. If you use like tree shaking, when the library that you didn't use, just to remove from this end of bundle, and it's put this application on some function near to the end user, so it's pretty close. It could be like in the Austin, in the London, pretty close to the end user. You can get for the whole world this solution, and it could render only a couple of the pages, only a couple of the routes, not all routes, yeah, only a couple of the routes. It is crucial and important for you for the quick receiving information and something like this, yeah. Okay. If you have no question, okay. Yeah, usually it's painful because if it's like some dynamic growing application, it's required a lot of the updating for the sitemap. A lot of the markets guys work on this. Yeah, they try to update these sitemaps. It could be revalidate something. It's sometimes some inconsistency between real route and with this sitemap. But overall, all of this approach work with this sitemap. Not against this one, it's with this one, yeah. So it's like a additional solution for crawlers, yeah, how they can index this, and we never can predict how often we can do this re-indexing for the crawlers. Sometimes every couple of the minutes, sometimes every couple of days, sometimes one time per year. So even sometimes never. So if it is have like nobody visit on your website, any links that don't exist, it's put in the queue, like SSR, yeah. And somewhere somehow it would be rendered, but in the end of the queue of the crawlers. So they also have the rank, yeah, of how we actually receive some data. So overall, yeah.
All right. Thank you, Pavel. Appreciate it. That's all we have for tonight. Whoops, went too far. Oh well. Next meetup will be next month. That seems like the wrong date. -7 of that. So for July 4th. No, wait, that doesn't seem right either. It's probably July 11th then. Anyway, next month we should have a meetup. So stay tuned. I think we've already got a few speakers coming in. I saw a talk proposal while we were sitting here from one of yours truly. So yeah, thanks everybody again for coming out. We've got about 20 more minutes, so feel free to hang out, connect, ask questions that maybe you thought of, or yeah, I don't know, just hang out. All right, that's it.